Guys, most divorce attorneys will tell men not to fight for their children
Why?
because most men, if they fight for their children, will not get their children. This is very complex, guys. So let me tell you something about a divorce case. Divorce cases can be, most divorce cases are fairly cheap, relatively speaking. I mean, it's not these Dr. Dre types of divorces, right?
Sure.
Most divorces you can get resolved for under 15 grand. You can. Um, there's one type of case that you can never get resolved for 15 grand. It is the most expensive type of case that a regular person is going to have. And that type of case is a custody battle.
Hmm.
And when you talk about custody battles, um, those things can get easily 35, 50, 75, 115. Now, imagine you're a man and you've got four credit cards and you come to me and you say, Lee, listen, I make $60,000 a year, but I want to fight for my two kids. And you're going to tell me the facts of your case and you got a little something. You got some arguments, but it's going to be a real battle because the judges are biased against men. And so we're going to have to put up a ton of evidence. What are we going to have to put up? Well, we got to do discovery. That's going to cost you 5, 10, 15,000. We got to take her deposition.
Hmm.
But then we also need to get the kids some counseling. And we need to get some experts on the case. We need to get the psychiatrist. We need to get the kids evaluated. We need all their reports. We need for these experts to show up to court.
Hmm.
And so you can make $60,000 a year, and I can run up your bill to 80 grand, which you cannot afford.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I have to tell you, I have to say, listen, you got a little something. But if I had to say whether you're going to win or lose, I don't think it's 50%.
Hmm.
There are attorneys who will tell you, listen,
I can see Ruslan not looking at the screen, or rather looking at the lead. He's looking at his own screen. It's almost as if he's doing his own research and not exactly listening. I'm like, and this is not a good sign when somebody is watching you and not listening.
pay me the 80,000, just put it all on all your credit cards, and I'm really going to try, and we're probably going to win. And what happens when you lose? They're going to look at you and say, well, we tried. We gave it the college try. Then they're going to take their 80 grand, that 80 grand you paid them, and they're going to fix their house and put their kids through a couple of semesters of college. Good attorneys don't do that. Good attorneys do the opposite.
Hmm.
Good attorneys say, listen, what's going to happen when I start charging this 80 grand? You get up to 30 grand and you're going to come to me and tell me, you're going to say, Lee, I ain't got no money. What I'm going to do?
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm going to do, Ruslan? I'm going to drop you as a fucking client because I don't work for free.
Hmm.
So now I've got your 30 grand, but your trial isn't going to come for a year and a half. That means you got to get up another 30 grand. You got to get on another attorney's plan to pay for the case.
Hmm.
So we attorneys tell you, listen, do not fight for custody if you cannot afford to do it. And a custody case is it's one of the most expensive cases that a man will ever have, and a normal man, not some NBA player or something like that. And so a lot of times it comes down to man, and men have tried. And you never hear about the men who spend $75,000 and then they lose, because what happens when they lose the $75,000? Now I've got their $75,000, and now guess what? They have to turn around and pay child support.
Yeah.
You got to turn around and pay.
Yeah.
With what money, right? Because I've already cleaned out their life savings. So good attorneys, we say, listen, instead of doing this whole $75,000 thing, what I can do is try to fight to get the most visitation that I can. And most fathers are like, okay, because I can't afford to enter into an unfair trial, lose, and then turn around and pay child support money with money that I just don't have. Now, what's interesting? The interesting thing you say is the more the man gets closer to court, the more the man has opportunities to win. Why is that? Do you know why that is? Because if I'm representing a husband, There are cases where I'm like, no, fuck this lady. We're going to get these kids. She's neglecting them. She's not taking care of them. She's doing this. She's touching them. She's not doing the things that she's supposed to do. We have a good case. We're like, oh, I don't know. No, let's go to court. The cases that go to court are the strongest cases.
Right.
You're thinking that the cases that go to court are equally strong as the cases that don't. And that's where you're missing. The cases that actually get to the trial, those are the cases that the men have the best chances of winning. So you're looking at the cream of the crop and assuming that the cream of the crop is reflective of the base of the pyramid. It's reflective of all the other cases.
Sure.
Now you wouldn't know that, right? Because you're just looking at the numbers.
Assuming that the strongest cases, the men are even acting towards wanting custody, 50-50 custody or full custody. That's assuming that in the bottom 90% or the bottom 99% that never see a judge, that there's men there that want it, but you're saying they're getting legal advice saying they don't want it. My buddies who went through this process didn't have attorneys. They just went through it and fought in the court system on their own behalf, right? So we agreed that the vast majority of these cases never even make it before a judge. The ones that do make it before a judge, the man has the higher shot in winning.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so you're saying, but you wouldn't give them that sort of advice. And I would say, well, why not? Why not give them that?
Dude, were you listening to him at all? The only reason why the men that have a shot end up going to court is because there is undoubtable proof that the woman is either abusive or reckless or harmful to the child. So you don't take that statistics and generalize to everybody.
Sort of advice. And do they always need an attorney in a situation like this? When, again, and this is me being honest with you, I'm saying I've seen it anecdotally play out where brothers didn't have attorneys. They went in, they got their kids. They went in, they had an argument. They said, hey, I am the primary care provider. This is how I take care of my kids. The kids want to stay with me. And they got their kids, right? And so I understand what you're saying. I understand that you're saying, hey, the odds are in our favor, this and this and this. But I'm saying empirically speaking, the numbers don't look like that. And then if we can escalate it to that point of, hey, I'm going to go fight for my kids, it doesn't sound like it's not in the man's favor. You're saying it's a financial thing. I'm saying is that the only way to fight for your kids is you have to.
This is what happens when you listen just to respond. You end up missing the whole point of it. So Ruslan is a Christian. I am also a Christian. But it's also important that we listen to people, what they are saying per se. Lead is not saying that, or rather, Ruslan is coming from the view that most men are not fighting for custody because they think it's a financial thing and they will lose a lot of money. And he's piggybacking on what the lead is saying, where he's saying that the men that actually go fight for their custody, they end up winning. But Ruslan is missing the point where why did those men even go for custody? It was because it is almost impossible not to prove that the wife is not good for, or rather the woman is not good for the child. So in those cases, those men will be like, my child will now be under this abusive atmosphere. I'm going to fight for it. No, they go for it and they end up winning because there is enough proof. But when there is no enough proof, it's just like, we separated. Most cases, you will not get custody as a man. The two of you are okay. Even if she doesn't even have the money to feed the children, you will not win the case for custody. That's what the lead is saying. He advises them not to even bother, because you end up spending this money and your lawyer will end up getting rich, and you yourself there is a low chance that you will get your children. So that was why I highlighted the fact that he wasn't listening at the beginning. He was Googling things and he's using his friends as an anecdote, which is not a good thing, which I don't believe.
Pay 100 bands and wipe out your life savings? I'm genuinely asking here.
Yeah, let me just tell you, as an attorney, my favorite case, my favorite type of case in divorce cases is when I represent the woman and the man represents himself. Oh my God. Your best case, your anecdotal cases, that's my favorite case. And it's not only my favorite case, it's all attorneys' favorite case.
Because the woman has the means to pay for you as an attorney, and the man doesn't have the means to pay for you or pay which similar lawyer as you.
I'm going unopposed. I'm going to crush you. I'm going to crush you.
it's like a veteran going against a street tout, a seasoned veteran, a soldier that has fought many wars, he has trained, or an MMA fighter going and meeting a street tout. I just like, I go scatter you. Not even a street tout. Let's say a lay person. They will beat you in a fight. How many laws do you know as an individual that the lawyer has not studied and practiced for decades? You'll be destroyed.
There's no way you can't deal with AV who's in law school. Like a regular person can't go up against a law school student. And I've graduated law school, passed the bar, and been practicing for 20 years.
So we're talking about the 1.5% of cases where the woman has the means to hire someone like you, spend 70 bands to escalate it, to get it before a judge, to keep the kids from the husband.
No, we're not talking about that. I'm talking about cases where the father opts to not hire an attorney.
Which is on the father.
Correct.
Right. No, I'm sorry. You're talking about cases where I thought we backed up. I thought we were talking about cases where the father opts out of fighting for the kids at all, and just gets what he can get. Like that to me is a L. You know, this like if you want to be in your kid's life, you have to actively pursue being in your kid's life by any means necessary.
Wrong. This is so wrong. I'm so glad you're saying this. This is so wrong. You have no idea how many men's lives have been destroyed financially trying to fight for something that you're not gonna get.
Yeah,
You know,
again, I'm just saying. All I could go off of is the data that I'm finding, and the data that I'm
you're
finding.
misinterpreting the data. That's what I'm telling you.
According to the data, men have a better shot if they escalate it. So I don't know how
I'm
to
telling you
misinterpret that.
why.
You're saying
It's the why. No, you're saying that you're reading the data, but you don't know the why. It's like, guys, you can read that 2 + 2 = 4, but you might not understand it. You might need someone to explain it to you. You're saying 2 + 2 = 4, but you might not understand why. You're reading the statistics, Ruslan, but I'm telling you why. Why is it that the majority of men do not go to court for these kids? It's because they're not going to get them. You know, it would be...
Or can I propose a alternative hypothesis?
Yeah.
Or is it that the men don't want their kids? Or is it the men aren't the...
Why are we quick to throw shade at men? Just because men are staying away from custody battle doesn't mean they hate their children. In the West, the court system is not in their favor, but we somehow find ways to blame men again for things that they don't control. All my research in this whole child custody stuff, it's hard to find men that didn't want a divorce, but a divorce happened that didn't want their children. It's very hard. Most times it's going to be men that ended the marriage themselves and they just disappear. Those men are the minorities. They are not even the mean or median. And we are here ready to shoot men for something that they are not in control of. I'm not saying there are no irresponsible men out there who don't want their children. There are, but they are not the vast majority of men.
Primary care provider? Or is it the men don't have the emotional capacity to fight for their kids? Or is it because the men have moved on and maybe the man practiced hypergamy, found a younger, hotter wife, and they're ready to start a new family? Why are we not going to acknowledge that those scenarios happen? I see those happen a lot. I see a lot of single mothers around here that would love for the father to be in the picture, but the dad's checked out. The dad's moved on. Like, where's the responsibility on the men on this situation? I understand that the court system's not fair. You're way more astute to that. That's your line of work, your expertise. I'll defer to you. But I'm saying we can't say that all men always want their kids and always get a bad shot from the court system. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that. Personally, anecdotally speaking, knowing multiple single dads, and also from the data that I'm seeing.
Yeah, you're misinterpreting the data, and I think we haven't really talked about this, but it's true. There are men who do not like their kids. There are men who don't want to spend time with their kids. There are men who don't want to pay for their kids. There are men who don't want to see their kids. I represented all these men.
Can you give me a percentage, if you're talking generally speaking, from your experience?
Let me finish for a second, because this is very important.
My bad.
Because you want to talk about, all these men not doing stuff. But it's interesting that you don't talk about the other side. Maybe you don't know. Let me finish.
I just said that on the front end, that my buddies took full custody of their kids.
It's a lie. Ruslan is a panderer. He panders to women a lot. Not just women. To me, Ruslan is an apologist for compromise. Anything that makes the church stay away from its traditional views, Ruslan is for it. And he tries to say, let's give grace to this perverted view. But anything that tries to steer the church back to its tradition, that's where Ruslan's hammer comes back. So that's why I don't like Ruslan. He's an agent for compromise. He's never trying to point the church towards a direction of orthodoxy. It's always a way towards leniency, towards liberalism. People don't see this, and it pains me.
And what did you say? You said that the women, they didn't use drugs or anything like that. So you're not talking about it.
That doesn't mean they were the most competent mothers either.
If you could let me finish, maybe you could hear, you're talking about these two gentlemen that won custody of their kids with no attorneys, and the mother weren't on drugs or anything. That's what you said. Let me tell you something about the other side, which you don't want to talk about. There are some shitty moms.
Of course.
And I know that because I've represented them.
Of course.
There are moms that have physically abused their kids. There are moms that abandon their kids. There are moms that neglect their kids. Yes. And so if you have shitty fathers, then guess what you also have? Since fathers are humans, guess what mothers are? Mothers are humans too. So you have shitty moms. So if you have shitty moms and you have shitty fathers, why is it that 90% of the women have primary custody when the moms are shitty too? This is what you need to analyze when you're looking at your numbers, guys. If you don't really practice in the space, you just look at the numbers, you have no idea what you're looking at. You're like, why is it if men and women can be equally good or equally bad, you would think that the numbers would be more 50-50, wouldn't you? Obviously there are shitty moms, but why is it that 90% of the moms get primary custody?
Yep. So this is not a good ambassador for Christianity at all. Just stay away from this guy if you're a Christian. Please follow other people. I'll have my views on him later on. If you want to ask me, you can ask me in the comment section below, and I will answer you. But he's quick to flog down men. But you see that he will never ever say anything bad about women. I'm not saying you have to say something bad about women, but the same grace you give women, you also need to give men. But he's willing to say the reason why men don't ask for their children is because the vast majority of them are irresponsible and they don't wish to fight for their children, because I have seen some instances where some men have abandoned their women. So then why would you generalize to the vast majority of men? That's insulting. That's insulting to the man that has tried his best to get close to his children, but he knows he can't do anything. His hands are tied. He probably has less than $75,000 in his bank account, and he knows he can't win it even if he tries. Ruslan is here trying to tell him that he should spend all that money to fight for his children. Dude, there are different ways you can fight for your children. It's not always in the courts. You can fight by just giving distance, and when they are old, they will come to you by you sowing seeds of I am still here, I am still here. And most of the things I've watched of all this kind of separation and marriage issue is whenever all those messages from the father comes, the mom destroys all those messages. I'm not saying all moms do it, but this is an emotional thing where hearts are broken. You don't expect communication to be smooth, and you expect the man to always be there when he's actively being opposed. He cannot be there. He wants to be in the life of his children. He cannot be there because they don't want him to be there. And even if she doesn't have the money, she will fight him so that he will not be there. So we should give grace to men when we see things like this, and not be quick to be like, it's because they hate their children. It's because they don't want to be in the life of their children. It's because they are evil. No, give grace. Give grace and listen to them because of your friends and your anecdotes, and then you generalize to everybody. He's saying his friends went to court alone without a lawyer and they won. Which kind of miracle is that one? It's fantasy. Either ways, thank you all for watching. I hope to see you guys and gals later. If you have any comments to make, please leave it down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. See you next time. Bye-bye.